some other nations will try to use unfair practices to outcompete our businesses. So we use tariffs as a way to, like,
I'm
challenge that.
I'm I'm confused as to why there it would just be unfair by the nature of the free market. I'm confused what you were referencing. I thought
Basically,
conservatives were typically the ones that thought like the free market brought about the most fair conditions.
okay, so but the world is not in a state of a free market condition. Every nation has massive tariffs against the United States, and they have also
Not
have
not
a
true.
limit.
The tariffs that we're placing on countries are not tariffs that they've already had placed on us.
What? They were talking about reciprocal tariffs.
Yeah, they're
Nations
not
have
they're not
tariffs.
reciprocal because we're placing tariffs on them that they didn't have on us.
Okay, so the EU, China have massive tariffs against us, right? Did you not know that?
Within certain industries,
Yeah, certain
not
industries.
across the
Yeah.
board. So we did across the board tariffs. That's not proportional.
No, I know,
If you
but the
wanted to
reason.
minimize their tariffs on certain industries, right, then what you need to do is you need to put reciprocal tariffs where it's specifically on the industries in which they put it on. That would make the most sense to do.
But the thing is that they put tariffs on every single industry. They may have
That's
some
not
lower than
smart.
others,
That
you
harms
know.
our economy. That harms their
No,
economy.
I'm
That's
talking
bad
about other
overall.
nations. Other nations do that to us.
Again, and that's not good. It's not good that they place the tariffs. We don't want them to do
It's
that.
not.
They don't
We
want to
don't.
do that, right? They shouldn't do that. I mean, right? Because it is the case that it's not good for their economy unless we're
But
referencing certain targeted tariffs, right?
do you know why they have tariffs against us? Do you know why?
I don't know why in every certain context.
It's because the American economy is so dominant. Our businesses are so established, so dominant that if they had fair competition around the world, we would just basically take over.
Not
And
true.
so that is true. That's the reason why a lot of
That's
capitalism.
hilarious.
Why is that
It's
hilarious?
hilarious that you think that.
That's how capitalism works, bro.
No, no. You think that the U.S. is the best in competing in every industry?
The United States used to have 50% of the world market, bro. Yes.
Used to?
Yeah, used to.
Okay, that doesn't mean it would now.
We're still the largest economy in the world and the most
So,
advanced.
not because of Donald Trump. We've actually our GDP has decreased because of Trump.
Okay, so look, as far as Donald Trump goes, Donald Trump is just someone right now who is standing up against the other team, which is China, EU, basically. Okay, that's all.
He's not standing up to them in any meaningful way that benefits our country.
The tariffs. Our
The tariffs
country's.
are not beneficial
How are they not beneficial if we didn't have
because
tariffs?
they caused consumer products to be more expensive for American consumers, which means that there are like inevitably a regressive tax on the American citizens.
Okay, so the way that works though is that when you put tariffs on other countries, obviously our citizens will have to pay higher prices if they want to buy those goods. But the
Yeah,
tariffs,
yeah.
so
So why do you want to make your own goods more expensive
the same reason
after
why
just complaining about inflation for 4 years?
other countries do the same thing. They make their economy a little bit harder in order to make it that their domestic
It's actually
companies.
really funny that like conservatives after complaining for inflation and gas prices for 4 years and grocery prices then are advocating for policy to increase prices. It's actually very funny.
Well, there's a difference, right? Okay, so we only have so much money, the nation, right? Otherwise, if we spend more than we generate, then we go into debt, right? So that means that we should take our money and prioritize where it should go. Now, certain things are consuming much more than they give back. And so, somebody can complain about inflation when it comes to that. When it comes to standing up against the unfair practice of the EU and China, that's something that we as a domestic economy cannot do nothing about. The only answer to that is tariffs.
How do you identify that it's unfair?
It's unfair whenever they don't let us fairly trade. They want to put restrictions against us, but then we don't are not allowed to put restrictions against them. And then once Trump did, basically, they started complaining about it, saying that it's not fair, it's wrong, all these things. But all these other nations have tariffs of their own, so obviously tariffs are good.
So again, if you want to mitigate the tariffs, then why did you reimpose tariffs on Canada after having them be decreased through the context of the USMCA?
Because the USMC. Okay, so Trump renegotiated the NAFTA back in his first term, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so Trump's first term is nothing like his second term because his first term, Trump was actually trying to like shake hands with people here and there. Obviously the Democrats didn't want to. but Trump wasn't exactly going after people. Now, the second time around, obviously, after assassination attempts and everything, he doesn't care no more, right? He just doesn't care. They threw him to the courts. They did everything, you know, to basically just tear him down. So he's not caring no more. Now, when it comes to the USCMA and
So you think that
trade
he has
agreement,
different policy on the USMCA and us needing tariffs on Canada and Mexico because there was an assassination attempt?
it's not just the assassination attempt, but yes, it has to do with the left, all right? Uh, the whole world is locked in between a fight between the Western civilization and secularism rising to usurp it. All right, can you agree with that? The EU, the United
No, I
States.
think you're yapping, bro.
You don't. I'm a historian, bro.
You're a historian? Not,
I'm a world
clear,
historian.
not a very good one.
Okay, well, are you a historian?
No, I'm not.
Well, why would you say something like that then? How would you not know?
Because then why do you support Donald Trump? I mean, did you learn about history at all?
Yeah, I learned everything about history.
You did.
Everything.
Okay, so if you learned everything about history, why do you support the same fascist bull that you've seen in history books?
Okay, so what is fascism?
Yeah, you want to look at the
That's the
14
thing.
points of fascism?
The 14 points of fascism created by who? I want to talk about fascism created by Mussolini.
Oh wait, okay. Well, I mean, you can reference that, but I'm referencing the 14 points of fascism. I can tell you who it's written by. The 14 points of fascism that I'm referencing is from Lawrence Britt. It's just defining what fascism is. So it does take into account like regimes of Mussolini, Franco, and
Okay.
others, right? That's what it says. So I mean, if you're just taking into account Mussolini,
Yeah.
okay, so then are
No,
you are
Mussolini's
you
the
a
one that
are you a
created that.
fascist?
No, I'm not. Of course not. I'm a classical liberalist.
Okay, so you're a classical liberal, you said.
Yes.
Okay,
Just
so
like the founding fathers were.
then why do you support fascism?
I don't support fascism. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's
Or
not
no, no, wait,
fascist.
but like I meant like why do you support a fascist candidate? Sorry.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's not fascist. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The left perverts definitions.
We're not.
Yeah, you
That's
do. On
wait,
everything.
how am I?
No, I'm
Wait,
not talking about you. I mean the left.
I'm referencing the 14 points of fascism by Lawrence Britt. If you want me to reference the specifics, I can. Right, we can go through them. I'm asking, was there a way that you define
Sure.
fascism that would mean that Trump isn't a
You know
fascist?
what? I'll let you go ahead and say those 14 points. We'll talk about them real quick. Go ahead.
Okay. So powerful, continuing nationalism, disdain for the recognition of human rights,
Okay,
identification of enemies and
one by one.
scapegoats. I will. I'm just going to identify all of them first. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Powerful and continuing nationalism, disdain for the recognition of human rights, identification of enemies/scapegoats as a unifying cause, supremacy of the military, rampant sexism, controlled mass media, obsession with national security, religion and government intertwined, corporate power is protected, labor power is suppressed, disdain for the intellectuals and the arts, obsession with crime and punishment, rampant cronyism and corruption, and fraudulent elections.
Okay. Now, which one do you want to talk about?
We can talk about every single one of the points. I think that every single one does apply to Donald Trump, to be totally
Well,
honest with you. But I think that there are better arguments for some than others. All right, and I think that
yeah.
there are solid points for every single one. I think that we can go over them if you'd like. Which one do you dispute based upon the ones I mentioned?
Mostly all of them, but
Mostly
there's
all of
certain
them.
ones that
Okay, okay.
there's
So
certain ones that I
let's
don't
go through the
dispute
first one.
because.
Go ahead. You're
All right,
saying?
go ahead. There's certain ones that I don't dispute because some of those things apply to other forms of government as well, right?
Well,
They're
I'm
not
not.
unique.
Yeah, I understand. But like what you're saying, what we're acknowledging in this context is that most of them together then means fascism. Like if you're just talking about, say, supremacy of the military, that in of itself isn't fascism,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Right.
But if you put supremacy of the military along with a bunch of other of these characteristics, then it is fascism. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand your argument, but I'm telling you right now I don't agree with it. So we
Okay.
can talk about
Well
it.
then, which ones do you dispute?
Well, I don't have the list in front of me, so it'd be helpful if you just talked about them one by one. Just go through the
Can
list.
you name one of them that you did disagree with?
You said them really quick, bro. Honestly,
Okay, but you disagreed with most of them apparently.
I've seen
Okay.
them before.
Okay, so powerful and continuing nationalism.
Powerful.
Fascist regimes tend to make constant use of patriotic mottos, slogans, symbols, songs, and other paraphernalia. Flags are seen everywhere, as flags are symbols on clothing and public displays.
How is that any different from the United States ever since World War II?
I'm just saying that that's one element specifically of
I
powerful and
know
continuing nationalism that, again,
I'm
something that Donald
addressing.
Trump upholds. Again, like I said with other ones, right? One of these by itself is not fascism, but this, along with
Yeah,
other characteristics, is fascism. Is fascism.
sure. But keep going though, so
Okay.
we can.
So do you accept the first one?
I accept that the United States is very patriotic.
No, like
Yes.
I'm asking, do you accept that this first one is applicable to Donald Trump?
Well, of course. Yeah, it's applicable to most Americans.
Okay. The second one is disdain for the recognition of human rights. And listen to this one. Because of fear of enemies and the need for security, the people in fascist regimes are persuaded that human rights can be ignored in certain cases because of quote unquote need. The people tend to look the other way or even approve of torture, summary executions, assassinations, long incarceration of prisoners, etc. So, what I
Mhm.
would reference for this is the fact that he thinks that it can be ignored in the context of due process, right? Specifically because it is the case that we need to get undocumented immigrants out of the country, right? Under his view, and it is the case that we can't do it quick enough to his proportionate world. I mean, to his worldview. Therefore, it is the case that he thinks it's a need. Secondly, he believes that people who are should be put on death. So that's also executions. So that meets the set of criteria for number two.
Can I talk about them?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the drug dealers on, you know, I could care less, right? Personally, all right. I'm sorry, I've been up for a long time. What was the first thing you said?
Yeah. So the first thing I was saying was that, again, he was saying that you can go against due process rights because of
Yeah,
quote unquote need, because we need to
the
get quote unquote
deportations.
undocumented we need to get undocumented immigrants out of the country, quote unquote need to get undocumented immigrants out of the country under his worldview. Therefore, it is the case that it meets that set of criteria because he's
Okay.
clearly saying you can violate due process rights as granted by the Constitution.
Okay, so due process, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Because as far as I'm concerned, when they present the name and the immigration status to a judge and he signs a deportation order, that's due process.
By the way, like that didn't happen for a lot of the cases that we're referencing. He's specifically saying no due process. He said that he doesn't know if undocumented immigrants deserve due process, right? And then
Yeah.
specifically, right, there has been plenty of scenarios that through his Trump administration they have not. He also questioned specifically saying, how could we possibly go through, right, all of those court cases, right, in order to be able to have the due process for everyone. So he said again, out of quote unquote need to deport undocumented immigrants, right, you just can just approve of, again, going against the due process rights, which is again a
Well,
violation of human rights as even
okay,
granted by
so
the
look,
Constitution.
listen, right? Due process, and as far as being in the courts and all that, it's going to take too much time. He's talking about the whole 90 days and waiting around. He doesn't want that. He just wants a judge to sign a deportation order and due process done just like that. So, so it's a matter of what is the due process.
Repeat that. Like, what's due process?
No, it's a matter of what is exactly the due process that is required because Trump doesn't want them to spend 90 days, talking to a judge. He just wants a deportation order and get them out.
Exactly. So he doesn't want to go through the context of due process rights.
But see, that's the same. What
So
is the context of due
I'm
process?
confused. You don't know what due process is?
No, I do, but I'm asking
So if you
you.
do know what due process is, well, then clearly you understand that him violating due process rights, as said by himself, like I've already mentioned, is clearly a disdain for the recognition of human rights as granted by the Constitution.
I get that, but my point is
You're a
that
historian,
due
correct?
process is not a spelled out process. Is what I'm trying to tell you. There's no actual legitimate. There's no
You don't think there's
process
a process of
that is
due? Wait,
spelled out.
wait. So to clarify, when granted within the Constitution, the reference for due process in the Constitution, as a historian, you're saying there's no process associated with it at all, listed? No spelled
There
out
is none.
process for due process in
There's, a,
America?
there's none, bro. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Is there judicial precedence?
Judicial precedence, sure.
Okay. So if there's judicial precedence in the context of the
Deportation.
in terms of deportations, would that establish it alongside the fact that it's literally ingrained in the Constitution?
No, that is a very valid argument that you're making right now, because, like I said, due process isn't exactly spelled out. So there's judicial precedence that we typically go upon. Judicial precedence, though, is not necessarily like a requirement in a sense.
I'm not
If that
saying
makes
it's a requirement. I'm just saying that's something that you might be able to acknowledge because you said that you're a historian.
Yes, no, I do acknowledge it.
Okay. Well, then I'm confused. You understand that due process is very clear.
Due process is not very
Yes, it
clear.
is. It is
That's my point.
incredibly clear.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
It isn't.
Okay.
Not in the deportations. But hey, let's talk about something else
It
though.
is. That is a disdain for the recognition of human rights. You can't dispute that. Do you want me to go on
What
to
are,
others? Because that is a
can
very
I ask
clear
you?
one.
Can I ask you what are human
Both of
rights?
those points are true.
Can I ask you what are human rights?
Human rights are specific types of conditions in which we would grant to people that align them to be treated a certain way.
And what certain way is that? What
It
value
depends. It
system?
depends on the right that we're referencing.
What value system are we using to determine what is a right or not?
What values? I use my own values. I believe in subjective morality.
Well, I mean we, but as far as the nation goes, not just you. But I don't believe in subjective morality.
Okay. Well, what do you mean by subjective?
Okay, so what is morality? That's what I'm going to ask you
Can
first.
you answer my question before
All right, go
asking
ahead. Yeah, go ahead. What did you say?
what does subjective mean?
Subjective means that it's like only you believe that in a sense. It's not just outside of you. It's not default universal type thing.
Okay,
You know, like
so I'll tell you the
do whatever
distinction.
you want.
I'll tell you the distinction. It's so subjective is true dependent upon a stance, and objective is true independent of a stance. Correct?
Okay.
Okay. So then, can you explain to me what morality would mean that it's true independent of a stance? How do you identify that?
Well, okay. So what is morality though?
That would be a question for you to ask. I think it's a description of
No,
my
I know the answer.
I think it's a description of my psychological preferences about how I think that people should act
That's not what they are though. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's how people should act. So we're getting closer. So I'll just tell you what it is, right?
as it relates to our values. I would say.
Morality is the understanding of human nature. Okay. And that if you do something to somebody, you know, it's going to have a negative consequence or a positive consequence, and therefore you should do the things that will have positive consequences only. That's morality. Okay.
Okay, so
It's
wait,
kind of like a boy who cried wolf.
so to clarify, you do things that only have positive consequences.
Well, you
Okay,
try and
and
avoid the
if you
negative
do something that
consequence.
has a negative consequence, you would consider that bad, correct?
Yes.
Okay, well then anything that Donald Trump does that has a negative consequence, you consider to be bad under your worldview, right?
No.
Okay, well then you just contradicted
If,
yourself.
if anything that he does that's bad, yes. But what is bad in your opinion? Because you say you have a subjective version of bad. I don't.
So just well, you do. I just don't think you understand what you're talking about. But this
No,
by
I'm
the
not.
way, this meta ethical conversation is irrelevant to the conversation we were having. I don't know why we even went into this. Can you explain to me why you brought this up?
Okay, yeah, I can tell you.
Instead of
So
acknowledging that this is like clearly a description of the disdain for
you
the
start
recognition
talking
of human
about,
rights.
you asked me about, you know, why I support a fascist. I said, well, what is fascism? Because I
Yeah,
want you to
and we're
understand.
currently on literally characteristic 2 of the 14 characteristics of fascism.
Yeah, okay.
So would you like
But
to
we're,
allow me to continue going through this, or do you want to like pivot off of it because you realize that both of them were applicable to Trump?
no, sure, they could be applicable, but
Okay,
that doesn't mean
they're
that you
applicable. Let me
are
move
fascist.
on then.
You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Well, we've only hit 2 yet,
It
so
could be
obviously,
applicable to Hillary Clinton too and Barack Obama. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Does that make them fascist? No.
make the argument. But let's talk about this. So
Yeah.
again, we're on number 2. You agree the first 2 are acknowledged to be applicable to Donald Trump. Let's move on to number 3.
Okay.
Identification of enemies slash scapegoats is a unifying cause.
Wait. The second one was about the human rights, right? I don't believe that
Was
applies to
disdain
Trump.
of for the recognition of human rights.
Yeah, I don't believe that applies to Trump at all. At all.
We totally went over that. What was my argument?
You was about due process being violated, and I'm telling you that's not violated. So therefore,
Wait,
you know, he's
it
not
was
violating.
it literally he said it himself. I already went over this, dude.
But he
Holy
hasn't done it. Yeah, he wants to. Maybe.
How
He
about this?
probably
How about this?
wants
How do you
to.
wait? Do you think Trump? How do you feel about Trump being in the Epstein files?
All right, so the Epstein files, right? Where is he at in the Epstein files? Is he just somebody that they ask questions about?
Well,
One
he
point.
apparently he shows up multiple times. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, maybe he
Is
was
that
somebody
a disdain for the recognition of human rights?
Why would it be a disdain? Him popping up in the files has nothing to do with human rights.
What
They
about him
could
being?
have asked
Wait, I have a
him.
question. What about him being held civilly liable? As a woman, is that him having a disdain for the
Are you
recognition of human
literally
rights?
just changing the conversation? But it's liable. Liable means it could have happened. It doesn't mean it's guilt. And they couldn't even
It's
figure out
guilt
that
in the context
did
of a
happen.
civil court. And what'd you say?
It's not guilt in the context of the civil court.
Yes,
The
it
civil
is.
court doesn't determine guilt. That's what I'm trying to tell
Yeah.
you.
So, what is liability in a civil sense? It's clear that you're guilty. But so, like, I'll ask you this
No,
question.
it doesn't.
Wait.
That's why it's not
Okay.
a criminal case.
Okay. By the way, I have a question. If someone drives their car into your car, and they're found liable of that in the context of a civil court, does that mean that they were guilty of that?
No, they're found guilty, not liable.
Wait, no, but like I'm just asking in a general colloquial sense, right? Were they guilty of hitting your car?
Of course. But legal terms are different.
Wait,
So,
so wait,
in a,
like I'm confused. Like if you acknowledge at
yeah,
least in
you
a
clearly
colloquial
are.
sense that like this form of liability
Colloquial
is
is different
clearly
than legal.
demonstrating guilt here, like then it seems like you have nothing in
You could,
understanding that when relating to
you could
the
stop
literally the
laughing now.
liability showing that Donald Trump is guilty of a woman.
Between There's a difference between colloquial and legal terms. Do you understand that? Do you?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm
Wait,
confused.
so why are you going to ask me about colloquial when the legal term's totally different?
Wait, what
You know
legal
what I'm
term?
saying?
Wait. Do you go off of legal terms or colloquial usage?
I go by whatever is important, right? What's relevant, what's germane, right? We're talking about a
And what
court,
is relevant to you? Is it colloquial or legal
the
in a
court
typical
case.
context?
So I want to talk about the legal term, right? You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Well then I have a question. Then would you
Okay.
throughout all points in history only use the legal terms?
It depends. If it's a legal case and they need to be represented and hit by the prosecution a certain way and everything, that's because they're on trial or something like that. Then yeah, they need to use the legal terms every single time.
Hmm.
If it's outside the courtroom, I could care less. Colloquial, right? Because that's what colloquial is.
Okay. So then I have a question. Like in a certain state in which the age of consent is 16 years old, you wouldn't call that for a 16-year-old to be by a 60-year-old?
To be,
Yeah.
of
Because
course,
yeah. Oh, okay. Wait. So you would consider that, but it wasn't legally.
you're saying that if a 6-year-old a girl,
Yeah, statutory.
oh, statutory.
Oh, he thinks
So
that's
you
not.
no, but that's different than normal.
Oh, what?
Is
What do
that
you
not normal?
mean? What do you mean it's different?
Well, one of them is that they're too young to understand what they're doing, but they're still just consenting, and the other one is that
Oh, what? Dude, they
consent at
can't
all. They
consent,
gotta,
you weirdo, and that's why it's statutory. They can't consent. What the be-do. We have a weirdo on the stream. These are the people that support Donald Trump. This is the guy. I'm a historian. Donald Trump's not a fascist. I'm a historian. You have a disdain for the recognition of human rights. Do you have children? Do you have children?
yes, I do.
If
Children
Donald,
have.
wait, I have a question. If Donald Trump went up to your 10-year-old daughter and he said he'd be dating her in 10 years, would you still vote for the guy?
No,
No? Okay, so why would you do it given that he did it to another 10-year-old?
because it wasn't my daughter, and it was such a long
Oh,
time.
so just because it's not your daughter. So okay, I have a question. If you were taking care of your friend's daughter, and it was the case that Donald Trump walked up to them and said he would date them in 10 years, right? They're a 10-year-old. Or would you still support the guy for president? Because it's
Honestly,
not because they're quote unquote not your daughter?
that is honestly disgusting.
Yeah, it is disgusting, and that's the guy you voted for, and the guy you still continue to support.
Well, okay, so
And the
I
guy
can
that's on the
understand.
Epstein files, and the guy that Epstein specifically pled the Fifth Amendment in response to a question of saying, have you specifically alone engaged in socialization with Epstein when there were people who were biologically female below the age of 18? And he said, I plead the Fifth.
Socialization, bro.
Yeah, that you want to hear the question?
Yeah. No, I seen it. I actually
You
seen it
did see
myself.
it, and okay.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Socialization, right? That could be anything.
Ooh, okay. Wait, so then,
Yeah, so you're getting worked up over something that's
wait. So
nothing.
how do you feel about the fact that there was literally a party with like where there was like people who were young, all right, women, and it was the case that Donald Trump and Epstein were the only men at that party.
Like young as in underage.
I'd have to check back. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, that sounds pretty up too. Did you hear me?
Yeah, and I'm confused.
Okay.
Do you support that guy? He also said that Epstein is a terrific guy and he likes beautiful women as much as he does. Many of them on the younger side.
Yeah, I feel like he
He
was stretching it.
wished Ghislaine Maxwell well in 2020.
No, he did. You're right.
I'm sorry. Is this the guy you still? Is that a disdain for the recognition of human rights?
Yeah, I don't think that maybe he's like
Oh,
the best person.
okay. So
Oh,
so
he's
can
right.
so do we grant both of those? Is that a disdain for the recognition of human rights?
Well, I'd have to see that he did it, not just like accusations, because I believe in guilt, innocent until proven guilty. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe in
Oh,
guilty
okay.
until,
You believe in due process?
yeah, due process. I do believe in it. Just due process for illegals is different from for American citizens. If they get a
The
deportation,
Constitution says for any person in the country. The Constitution does not say only for people who are in the country legally. It does not say that at all.
but they all got their due process regardless, didn't they?
No!
Yeah, they did. The
No!
judge
No,
signed
they didn't.
deportation orders.
You're
That's
wrong.
the,
You're
we went through the
wrong.
courts.
You're
We
literally
get deported
lying.
for
You're lying. You're lying.
deportation.
You're lying. Look at this
A
guy lying. Look at
deportation
them running.
order.
Look at them running. They're
A
lying.
deportation
What a
order.
historian, Shadi. He's such a historian. I have a question. When did World
Yeah,
War
go
II
ahead.
start?
So for the United States or for just in general?
In general.
1939,
And due to what country being invaded?
China being invaded by Japan.
No! 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 It was the invasion of Poland! Oh my god, this guy's a historian!
World War II started before that.
What are you talking about?
You don't
wait,
count Japan and China as far as World War II or no?
historically speaking, what I learned was that the beginning was specifically the invasion of Poland.
It's a very Eurocentric perspective.
Oh, sure. Wait, is that sure? Maybe that's a critique. I'm confused. When did the particular attack that you're referencing occur?
You're talking about the Nanjing massacre and all that? The attack on China from Japan?
So that wasn't in 1939.
No, it was in 37.
So then why'd you say 1939?
Because I got mixed up with the Polish invasion.
Okay, so wait. Okay. So then you are a bad historian. You didn't even get the year right.
Well, I did get it right. It just took me a second try.
Okay. Interesting.
So, can I talk to
What
you
year
about
was the
something?
Constitution ratified?
Was it 1989 or I mean 1889? I mean, sorry, 1789. Sorry, I'm getting on mine.
Jesus Christ, dude. I was like, this guy is not a historian. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Am I wrong?
Here, how we'll keep asking questions just because I'm curious. I just want to keep going. Let's see. Chat, what are some historical questions we should ask him? MAGA historian asked basic history questions.
He said, when was the War of 1812?
Yeah, when was the War of 1812? Let's hear it.
1812, come on now, bro.
Diabolical. When did the Civil War end?
1864?
Nope. Jesus Christ,
What?
dude. This got MAGA historian, chat.